which in those days was an old person. So we don't know whether Daniel ever went back to Jerusalem and to Judea or not. But he was amongst those. Okay? Now here's where we get into some of the prophetic stuff. No one is absolutely sure what the location of the temple was, but it is believed by most, and I subscribe to this, that the temple was on what is now known as the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, or Mount Moriah. Okay? Lots of research says this is the conservative point of view. Okay? This is what conservative theologians believe. Now, here's what's interesting. This location is currently the site of the Dome of the Rock. An Islamic holy site is an Islamic mosque built somewhere around 691, 692, soon after Muhammad appeared on the scene and started passing out his visions. The Dome of the Rock is the third most sacred site in all of Islam, after Mecca and Medina, the two major mosques in Mecca where Muhammad went on his pilgrimage and where all good Islamists are suspected to go nowadays, to pilgrimage to Mecca, and Medina, which is another Saudi Arabian city, and then the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Now, you can understand why this is a significant issue. Okay? This is the approximate location where Abraham was thought to have taken Isaac to be sacrificed. Now, it is no coincidence that that's where Solomon built the temple, because he knew that history. Okay? That was the ultimate sacrifice up to that point. The sacrifice of Isaac was a forerunner, if you will, of the sacrifice of Jesus, which would have occurred very near here. Okay? Golgotha is not far from where this would have occurred. Okay? And so, this is a very sacred site for not only Muslims, but also for Jews and Christians. It may be, quite frankly, considered to be the most holy site, religiously the most holy site on the planet. Because all three major Abrahamic religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all look to it as a holy site. So, now, here are the great questions of prophecy. Will the temple be rebuilt? If yes, when? And if it is rebuilt, will it be destroyed again? Those are questions people are asking. Now, the Bible has answers to these questions, or at least points to answers. It never says directly. The Bible doesn't say a lot of things directly about end-time stuff, okay? But the Bible certainly seems to indicate that yes, the temple will be rebuilt, yes, it will be destroyed in some manner. That's, again, the conservative consensus, okay? Now, one of the reasons that we believe that is because of item 14 on the list of the Olivet Discourse. I don't ask you to remember that up front, because it was 3 weeks ago, but item 14 is what is known as the abomination of desolation. Okay? And basically what that is that the Antichrist at some point will go into the temple and sacrifice a pig on the altar, which is an absolute travesty if you're Jewish or Muslim for that matter, because swine are considered impure and evil. What?
Sheep.
No, pigs. Swine is hog. Pig, yeah. They eat sheep. It's not pigs.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, now, if you're going to have an altar on which to sacrifice, it seems logical that the temple will also exist. But there are a lot of logistics there, because if they rebuild it where they think it ought to be rebuilt, what the Israelis want to do, they want to rebuild it where they think it stood originally, but the Dome of the Rock is in the way. Well, Israeli Islamic tensions are crazy high all the time. You can imagine if Netanyahu says, we're just going to blow this sucker up, rebuild the temple, I mean, World War III would start overnight. Okay? Now, I cannot prove this from the Bible yet. this and try to, I cannot prove this from the Bible. But here's my take. I believe that God is going to supernaturally destroy the Dome of the Rock. And when it is destroyed, the Israelis will say, it's our land, it's in Jerusalem. God did this, we didn't do it. God did it, and we're going to rebuild the temple. Now, that's my philosophy. Could be totally wrong, could be just an element, but that's my philosophy.
Well, what's going on now that's in the news?
Yeah.
The Islamic nation, what they want to do, I see that.
Oh yeah, it makes perfectly good sense, actually.
Because it's going back to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, right. And God, if God destroys it, then the Israelis can say, hey, we had nothing to do with this. Okay? If the Israelis went in and destroyed the Dome of the Rock, there would be hell to pay, as they say. It would get ugly in a hurry. Okay? And I think Netanyahu and his followers in Israel are smart enough to know they can't do that. That's why I believe God is going to ultimately pull it off somehow. Now, again, how or why, I don't know. Maybe one of those great earthquakes, it's predicted. You know, maybe that ground will open up, the Dome of the Rock will disappear, the ground will close back up, and it happened in the Old Testament, there's no reason it can't happen again. He just said, can't prove this. Certainly can't prove it biblically. I can't even prove it from the news, but it is said that the Israelis have the materials in hand and ready for the rebuilding of the temple. They have been collecting them for generations. Now, if that's true, tells us something.
Well, that's what was said when we went to North Carolina.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And he said
Yeah.
prepped and ready.
And a lot of people still believe that. So anyway, when we get to the abomination of desolation, we'll talk more about that, other prophecies that lend to that. But the temple is a real key in this whole prophetic picture. It's a major, major key that we need to be aware of. Okay? One of the reasons, everybody's saying, it's here, the end's up, I think the end is further away, for no other reason than this one, it's further away than we might think. Because you ain't going to take that thing down and rebuild it overnight. It ain't going to happen. And it's going to take some time. So, anyway, we'll leave that at that. We'll come back to it when we get to item 14. All right. The second group of things we're going to talk about today is the rise of false messiahs, which is item 2 on the list, and the rise of false prophets, which is number 10. Now, obviously, these go hand in hand. That's why we're discussing them together. And we'll do that with a couple other ones along the way, too. But listen to what the Scripture says. And I want you to pay attention. Because there's a key word that's going to appear in every one of these verses that we read. And it will be attested here. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to here. See if you can pick it up. Matthew verses 4 and 5. Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. Verse 11. Many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Verse 24. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Mark 6. Many will come in my name, claiming I am he, and will deceive many. Mark 21 and 22. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here's the Messiah, or look, there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Luke 8. He replied, watch out that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, claiming I am he. The time is near. Do not follow them. Okay. Now, it is noteworthy. Matthew 3 different times mentions false prophets and messiahs. Mark 2 times, Luke 1 time. Remember what we say about repeated information. The more often it's repeated, the more important it probably is. So, Jesus is telling us this is a significant thing on this list. Okay? Now, it is also very noteworthy that these warnings appear very early in Jesus' speech and again very late in Jesus' speech. Now remember, we talked about, one of the disclaimers was, these things are the beginnings of birth pains. Okay, we talked about these things representing earthquakes, rumors of war, famines, stuff that's been going on forever. But then at the end, Luke says, and when these things happen, now we've got that whole long list intervening. Okay? So, I think what we take from this, and we're going to answer this question. False prophets have been around for a long time. We know that. But the closer we get to the end, I believe the more and more false prophets and false teachers we're going to see. All right? That's why I think Jesus mentions it early in the Olivet discourse, and he comes back to it late. We're going to see more and more and more of these false teachers and false prophets. Okay, so here's the test. One word was found in all 6 of those passages. Deceive. That's the key word.
Isn't the word will in every one of them too?
That's not important, so shut up.
No, it's very important.
Okay, yes. Well, will deceive, they come together, yes.
Will is the guarantee. It's
Yes.
not just that people are going to be deceived, it's that it's going
Yes,
to
okay.
happen.
Okay, thank you. You win.
No.
No, you're right. No, I know, you're right. Okay, but deception, okay? Deception is the modus operandi of all false teachers and false prophets. Okay? That's what they do. They deceive people. Deception is a powerful weapon. Why?
Makes people do the opposite of what they're going to do.
Okay. Deception makes you do the opposite of what you should be doing. In actual fact, yeah. You're right.
It's tricking somebody.
Yes. It's a trick to get you to do something that you shouldn't do. Or to not do something that you should do. Whichever way you look at it. Okay? Deception is about destroying people's core basic beliefs. The Bible is full of it. Okay? Listen to the warnings. Okay? Jesus, Sermon on the Mount. It's interesting, Jesus' last great speech, he talks about deception. The Sermon on the Mount was his first great speech. And he talked about deception. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. Now, he doesn't use the word deception, but clearly it's there. I was telling you Thursday night. My all-time favorite cartoons are Shep the sheepdog, with his floppy hair, he can't see, but he's all-time whack, and the wolf, the wolf, in one of those episodes, he puts on sheep's clothes and he tries to sneak in and steal the sheep, and even then, Shep whacks him in the head, Sam, not Shep, yeah, Sam the sheepdog, you're right, thank you.
I know. No, you're right.
Yeah. I know where you live. Okay.
You don't even know who Sam the sheepdog is. What wonder you are?
I know the story, I just had the wrong name. Okay, but think about that, okay? That's exactly what Jesus is talking about. The false prophet that dresses up and looks like one of the sheep, but really he's a wolf that's tearing the sheep apart. Paul said in Acts, I know that after I leave, savage wolves will come in among you and not spare the flock. Even from your own number, men will arise and distort the truth in order to draw away disciples after them. From your own number, Christians, supposedly, part of the church, that are going to be these false prophets. We're going to talk about some of them here in a little bit. Think about it. Okay? Peter, this is his warning. But there were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false prophets among you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord who brought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. False prophets have been around forever. Okay? They were a major problem way back to Jeremiah. They were a huge, abundant, I like that word. They were an abundant problem even during the day of Jeremiah. Listen to what Jeremiah says. The Lord said to me, the prophets are prophesying lies in my name. I have not sent them or appointed them